Okay, so I thought we'd do something different today. I'll share some knowledge about what I do know about. I've been doing this for over 30 years as a plumber, heating engineer, and I thought I'd share some basic stuff about how to solder pipe and what to do if you put a nail through a pipe and that sort of thing. So we'll start off with how to solder a joint and the importance of what to do and how to do it. It can be done with fairly basic tools. A blow lamp can be sourced now fairly inexpensively off the likes of eBay and that now, so it's not something you have to spend a fortune doing. I will stress at the outset, if you're going to do gas, don't. It's as simple as that. Regularly you see, or periodically you see on the news, a house which has exploded. One's happened just recently, sadly. Don't mess with it. Water is one thing. Water, you can go wrong again. If you flood your house, you will make a lot of mess, and you will cause a lot of thousands of pounds worth of damage. But you're unlikely to kill somebody. Get it wrong with gas, you'll probably kill your family. So please don't mess with gas. But for water, even central heating systems, the water side of it, what I'll show you here will be fine. Obviously, disclaimer with this: whatever you do is on your own head, but I'll try and show you what I know. So we'll start off with soldering. So we'll flip the camera around. Okay, so soldering a pipe. Most important thing is cleanliness. Now, even this pipe looks reasonably clean. You can get that close to the camera. It looks reasonably clean. It's still not clean enough to solder onto. So got a couple of options here. Bit of emery type cloth. I can't remember what this stuff's called. I guess stuff used in kitchens, whatever that's called. Or this sort of mesh cleansing strip. Now, this is the easiest stuff to use. You can wrap it around the pipe and all sorts. So what we'll do, we'll give that a clean. And if your pipe's got paint on it, this is absolutely vital you do this, because if you've got paint on it or any dirt at all, it'll be useless. So if you can see that in the camera now, let's get the point of the camera properly. Get some focus going on here. Come on, camera, wakey. There we go. I think you'll see how clean and shiny that is. That is what you need. Okay, so that's that one. And even this bit of pipe's a bit shinier. We'll clean it up. If you're working with brand new copper pipe, you don't need to do this. In my experience, the flux will deal with it. Right, let's chop a bit of this off. These are my garage pipe cutters, by the way. My decent ones are on the van. It's absolutely hammering down out there today, so I'm not inclined to go outside to find them. And I'll probably forget to put them back on the van. And when I get to the job, it's a pain in the neck. So let's clean that up. So 3 nice clean fittings. Copper T. Because if you're going to be doing a bit of DIY, I guess you're likely to be teeing in for a washing machine or perhaps a extra radiator on the heating system or something like that. So I thought we'd look at a tee. Now, as you can see, this is pretty clean. So I'm not inclined to clean that up any more than it already is. Next thing you need is your flux. Now, you can try and solder without flux, but you'll spend the rest of your life chasing leaks because it just won't happen. Because what happens, as soon as you put a flame on that, the surface will oxidize immediately. And so what the flux does, it's a mild acid, and it will clean through that oxidization layer as you're soldering. Now, some will say don't flux on the inside of the pipe because it will just push up and go up all over, and that's nonsense. If you're doing gas, it's slightly different, but of course you're not going to be doing gas. But with water, because you can flush it all out afterwards, it doesn't matter. And if you're doing it on a heating system, flushing it out is absolutely vital. Now, one tip there you may have you pick up on: flux the fitting first, because if you put the fitting down on the floor like that, you're not likely to get dirt in it. But if you flux a pipe, then put the pipe down to flux the fitting, you're going to get dirt all over your pipe. So fitting on, make sure it goes home to the stop. And again, flux the pipe all the way around, nice and clean. And in. And when you put it in, if you can, give it a bit of a twist as well, helps make sure it's all seated. In. Again, all the way around, nice and clean. And in. So there we have your T joint there. So next step is going to be get your blow lamp and your solder. Now the solder you want is lead free stuff. It comes with a green, you'll see it'll have a green casing on it. The leaded stuff tends to be either black or the blue spool on it. Don't use that, really not healthy, and you don't want to be drinking from it. If you're going to be doing something on drinking water, always use a lead free. Cut out a bit like that, give the end a bit of a tip round like that. So the purpose of that is you can go on the back of the fitting. So what we're going to do is put the heat this side and tap the solder until it starts to feed in from this side. That way you know your heat is trickled all the way around. Now the way a solder works is by a natural phenomenon called capillary attraction. So if you get two surfaces close together, a liquid will naturally creep up between them. So if you had two panes of glass and put them together, if you dip those panes of glass into water, you will see the water creep up the glass. It's how trees breathe and drink water. So to be honest with that's another subject. So blow lamp. Now this is on the more expensive end of the market because it's something I use on a regular basis. So if you're going to do a lot of this, it's worth forking out for something quality. But if you're only going to do a couple of jobs around the house, a cheap and cheerful one will do the same job, just won't last as long. The beauty of this Rothenberger type is you can have them on for hours and you can grab the end. By some wizardry, the flame comes out without making the nozzle hot. They're absolutely genius. So blow lamp on. Now, the next thing is about the flame. I don't know how much of that flame you're going to see on the screen, but the hottest part of the flame is right about there. It's not up here. It's about there. So if we turn this up a little bit more. Now again, heat from this side, feed from that side. You know when it starts to go because it will start to feed in. There you go. See how it's pulling into the joint, and that's all you need. Rule of thumb is the amount of solder you need is about the same diameter as the pipe. So with a 15mm tube like this is, about 15mm of solder will do it. If you really want to be absolutely sure, if you go in with it, you see it pull in, keep going till you get a drip come off. And when a drip comes off like that, knock off the snob, you know it's definitely filled up the solder. There is no need, that's just wasting solder going that far. There we go. Now let that cool down. Don't be tempted to chuck water on it or cool it down. Leave it cool down by itself. Now what you've got going on here is the solder makes a mechanical bond between the two. So it'll creep into the surface of the copper on both sides and make a really good strong mechanical bond. But if you move that while it's cooling down, it'll break that bond and you'll end up with a leak. So if you do accidentally knock it as it's cooling down, just warm it up with the blow lamp again and touch a bit more solder in to make up the difference. So you let that cool down, and next thing you need is a cloth. Absolutely vital that you wipe off the flux from the exterior. You'll see sometimes, maybe you'll see it in your own house from your own work, or from other people's work, sorry. After a few days, you'll green all around the joint. It will take a long time for that to eat its way through the pipe, and we're talking probably years, but eventually it will. And if this is underneath the floorboards, you don't want that happening. So yeah, that's cool enough now to wipe it down. So if you see it from that end, that's a nice strong joint. Nothing wrong with that. That'll hold water, no problem at all. So give it a good wipe. Now of course you're not going to have access to it like this. It's going to be under floorboards or what have you. So get your rag, wrap it around, and give it a good tug like that. And again, on all the joints that you do, it takes a bit of extra time, but it'll be a lot better in the long run. So there you have it. That is how you solder a bit of pipe. It's not rocket science. I'm not myself a genius of any sort. The key is cleanliness. Get it nice and shiny and clean. If there's any dirt on that pipe or any paint, what I tend to use if I'm in work and there's paint on the pipes, clean the paint off, get this around it like that, give it a good clean like that. Then I use the camera on my phone to check underneath, or a mirror to check it, just to be absolutely sure that it's absolutely spotless. Don't waste time on that. Don't scrimp on that. I mean, because if you think, oh, it's clean enough, it won't be. It has to be absolutely spotless. You'll save yourself a whole heap of nightmare, because if you get a leak on that joint when it's in, because you've not cleaned it properly, to sort that out is a nightmare. You've either got to cut it to get the fitting out, or you've got to heat it up and tap the fitting off, which inevitably causes other problems. You'll have water in the pipe at this point, and if there's water in the pipe, it won't solder. That's the next point. If it got water in the pipe, even a drip, it won't allow the pipe to heat up enough to solder it. Has to be absolutely bone dry. So take your time with that. Bit of tissue like that, wrapped up and poked up inside the pipe, and left that to run into like a little container, like an ice cream tub or something like that. Well, that will suck the water out. Eventually any water in there will get pulled through the tissue. In fact, especially if that's like that hanging into a tub, that'll help pull any water out of there. If the pipe is loose, like if you're adding a radiator for example, you may be able to pull the pipe up enough for any water that's in there to pull away from the joint that you're soldering. But if you've got even a small amount of water in there, it will just flash the steam, and that steam, even though itself is very, very hot, is not nearly hot enough for the solder to run. So you need it absolutely bone dry. So there we go. I hope that was helpful. As you can see, that's a nice straight joint that will have no problems at all. And once you've got that, you can run your water through it. See if that's going to a tap, for example, run the water through it until it runs nice and clear, and then that flushes out all the flux on the inside of the pipe. I hope you found that useful. I intend to do other videos. Like I said, one almost inevitably, if you're working in your house as a DIYer, at some point you almost certainly will nail through a pipe or screw through a pipe. So I think the next video I'll do is what you can do with that. Is a couple of sort of 3 or 4 different ways of dealing with that. One thing I will say, don't use plastic. Don't use push fit fittings. They're easy to use, they're quite expensive, but they don't last. They last a few years and then they will leak. I can guarantee you they will leak. If you use normal heating systems, the plastic pipe will block up. I see all the time, no end over the years of plastic pipes which are just chock solid because of heat and debris and sludge and corrosion that happens inside the system. Just save yourself the pain, learn how to solder a pipe, and do it properly. Yeah, thanks for watching, and give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you like it. Cheers.